All right, you guys. So in this video, I am going to try and help you do the Gizmo, minerals Gizmo. So I printed out the copy of the student exploration sheet. I printed that out for you, so you should have that on paper. But because I am really only able to share my screen in this video, so I have it up on my screen so you can see what the answers would be. So I also have open two other tabs. So I have the Gizmo itself. So that is right here. I logged in, signed in with my username and password, and I got signed into that. And then I also have the mineral key. So you kind of need three things to complete this activity. All right, so first off, we are going to start with the actual student exploration page. So it says, follow the instructions to go through the simulation. Respond to the questions and prompts in the orange boxes. Vocabulary: crystal, density, hardness, homogeneous, luster, mass, mineral, streak, volume. All right, prior knowledge questions. Do these before the gizmo, and this is just testing your knowledge. Suppose you find a yellow piece of metal in a stream. How could you tell if it's real gold? So you could put whatever you would do there, but in class we talked about kids could you could test to see how hard it is, how hard the gold is, because we know that gold is a pretty soft metal. You could look at its color to see if it's gold. Does it tarnish? So you could put any of those things. What would you do if you found a piece of metal in a street? The next one, in a city, the street peddler offers to sell you a diamond ring for 30 bucks. How could you test if the rock in the ring is a real diamond? So again, this is just what you would do. Some kids in class talked about the how they may try to scratch the diamond with another object, because we talked about how diamonds are the hardest minerals. So going through anything, you can look at it, the color, see how dense it is. So each mineral has a certain density. So just kind of getting to know, kind of just identifying that you would look at its certain properties to try to identify it. All right, so the warm up, determining density. So this is kind of a big deal for this lab because density is really important. And it is something that we're going to revisit later in 6th grade science. So you need to be able to determine the density of each mineral. And the Gizmo is really good at this. All right, so a mineral is a naturally formed crystal. You can identify a mineral by its properties. In the mineral identification Gizmo, under choose property to test, select density. So I'm going over here to the Gizmo, property to test, I choose density. All right, mass is the amount of substance in an object. Drag the mineral sample onto the balance. What is the mass of the mineral? All right, so we're dragging this onto the balance. The mineral shows that it has a mass of 36.4 grams. So that's what goes in here, 36.4. All right, it says volume is the amount of space an object takes up. The volume is measured by how much the water rises in the graduated cylinder. Drag the mineral into the cylinder. So we're going to take the mineral, put it inside the cylinder. It gives us the volume right here. So it has a volume of 14, and that's milliliters. All right. Density is a measure of how light or heavy an object is for its size. To measure the density of an object, divide the mass by the volume. All right, this is where I'm going to just use my phone, but if you have a calculator, that would be awesome. Okay, so we're going to take 34 or 36.4 and divide it by 14. What I get is 2.6. So the density of this particular mineral is 2.6, and that's grams per milliliter. Okay. All right, so that's how you get density. Density is mass divided by volume. M divided by V for volume. All right, activity A. What properties allow us to identify minerals? Number one, observe. Minerals are made up of atoms in a repeating pattern and often form crystals. The shapes of crystals can help identify the mineral. Luster is the way the mineral's surface reflects light. There are many ways to describe luster. Four examples are shown. Color can sometimes be a useful way to identify a mineral, but it's not always reliable. Describe the crystal structure or shape of sample A. So we're going to go to appearance. Oh, so I forgot to read this up here. It tells us what to do to get the gizmo ready. So under properties, select appearance. Sample A needs to be shown. So here we go. We have sample A shown. Let's look at its appearance. So this is probably the hardest thing to identify, but if I had to pick one of these as a crystal of the mineral's crystal shape, I'm going to go with, if I'm looking at the edges of this, I'm going to go with a hexagon shape. So the crystal structure, we're going to go with hexagon. All right, color and luster. So that's where we go down here. So first we either need to, it's either going to be metallic or non-metallic. So this is definitely not metallic because it's glass. It looks like glass, it's see-through. So we're going to go with a glassy non-metallic, and the color is like a whitish clear. So we're going to say white slash glassy. All right, select the density test. What is the density of sample A? So we go back here, density, sample A. We get the mass, 36, I'm going to use my calculator, 36.4, divided by 14. Again, since we already did this in the warm-up, it's the same exact answer. So 2.6. So here's the density, 2.6 grams per milliliter. All right, now it says measure. Select the hardness test. Hardness is a measure of how easily a mineral can be scratched. It is measured on a scale of 1 to 10 called Mohs hardness scale. If a mineral scratches a fingernail, which is a hardness of 2.5, but not a penny, its hardness is about a 3. So let's go over here. We're going to select hardness. All right, so we're going to rub it on the fingernail. It definitely leaves a scratch. Then we're going to try it on the fingernail, or on the penny. It scratches that. So it has to be harder than the fingernail. It also has to be harder than the penny because it's scratching it. Ooh, it's harder than the glass, so it has to be harder than a 5.5. But it's actually harder than the steel plate as well. So it has to be harder than a 6.5 as well. So what we're going to be doing is, it says drag the mineral sample across each test objects. Which objects are scratched? All objects are scratched. All right, what is the estimated hardness of the mineral? So because all we have to test it with are these objects, and the hardest object is 6.5, we would just simply have to say above 6.5, because that's all we can narrow it down to. All right, number 4, observe. Select the streak test. So we're going to go over here, streak. The streak is the color of a material's powder. You can observe the streak by rubbing the mineral across a tile called a streak plate. Drag the mineral sample across the streak plate. What color is the streak? So we've got the streak test selected. We're dragging it across the streak plate. And if you look real close, you still can't see anything. So there is no streak. So you would type no streak. All right, number 5. Observe. Select the acid test. So we're going to go to acid reaction. Some minerals cause hydrochloric acid to bubble and fizz. Drag the eyedropper of acid over to the mineral. Does the acid fizz? So, eyedropper, drop. I see no bubbles, so that is no fizz. So does the acid fizz? We write no. All right, here's the fun part. So it says identify. Now it is time to identify the mineral. Look at your mineral key. Find a mineral that has properties that match sample A. Type the name under mineral name in the gizmo and press submit. It may take several guesses to get it right. So let's go ahead. Let's look. Let's just review quick what our properties are. So we have a hexagon crystal shape, a white glassy color and luster, a density of 2.6, and a hardness of above 6.5. So let's go to our mineral key, which is right here. And the very first thing to look for is density. Because it's mathematical, it's gotta be right. So we said our density was 2.6. So it's not subjective, it's not up for interpretation, it's math and it's right. So we're gonna go through and look for a 2.6 grams per milliliter density. So I'm going down, I don't see one here. Let's go to the next page. Oh, I'm zoomed in too far. All right, so it could be, here's a 2.6, and then here's a 2.6. So we've got feldspar, it could be, kaolinite, it could be, quartz, it could be. So there's 3 of them that match up with our density. Now, the next thing to go for is the hardness. So let's look at the hardness. We have 2.6 for feldspar. It has a hardness of 6. Ours has to be above 6.5 because that's what we found out by doing the hardness test. So it's not going to be feldspar because that's not a matching hardness. Let's go down to kaolinite. It has a hardness of 2. So it would not even scratch your fingernail. So it's softer than your fingernail. So it's definitely not kaolinite. So let's look down here at quartz, because quartz also matched up with density. 2.6 for density, hardness of 7. We said anything above a 6.5 because it scratched the streak plate. So let's go to the gizmo and try quartz and see what it says. It says correct identification on the first try. Nice job. So here, what we write is what mineral sample A? Quartz. All right, so here's where we're going to do activity B. So activity B, identifying minerals. It says get the gizmo ready. Click next so that sample B is showing. So we're on sample A right now. We're going to hit next. Sample B is showing. All right, goal, use a key to identify minerals. All right, so first we're going to look at sample B. What is its crystal shape? All right, well, weirdly, this one is like really difficult to see, but you could kind of see like straight edges. This one is actually rectangular in its crystal shape. So just, it's a little bit difficult to tell, but because you're just getting like a little sliver of a mineral, that you can't just use the outside edges per se, but this one is actually a rectangular shape. Its color and its luster, so if we go down here, it's definitely not metallic because it doesn't shine like metal, but it does kind of have this pearly look, and it's definitely like a pinkish color. So we're going to say it's pink slash, and it's pearly. So pink and pearly. Density is the most important one, your giveaway. So let's take mass of 78. So I'm going to put that in my calculator, say 78 mass, divided by 30. So divided by 30. And I get 2.6. So ironically, same density as the mineral A. So grams slash per milliliter. Hardness. All right, we're going to go over here, select hardness. First, we're going to see if it can scratch a fingernail. Yep. So it's got to be harder than the fingernail. Can it scratch a penny? Yep. It's got to be harder than the penny. Can it scratch a piece of glass? Yep. It's got to be harder than a glass. So that's a 5.5. Can it scratch the steel plate? Nope, no scratching. So it's got to be between a 5.5 and a 6.5. So some people would put 6, but I feel like that's too, I feel like it's not guaranteed to be a 6 because it could be like a little bit, it um, could be in between that. So I think we should put a hardness of 5.5 to 6.5. All right, so now we're gonna do the streak. So let's see, what color does it streak? All right, well, that looks pretty white to me. All right, we're gonna do white. Next property, acid reaction. Does it fizz? Nope, just splashes on it, but I don't see any fizz. So we're gonna write no. All right, so then we're gonna go over here to our chart, and we're gonna look for first look at density. All right, so let's look for any that have a density of 2.6. I'm looking down. None on the first page, but here's one. Feldspar has a 2.6. Kyanite has a 2.6, and so does quartz, which we found on the sample A. All right, so of those three, let's look at the next property. Next, we need to look at the hardness. So we know that it has to be between a 5.5 and a 6.5. So, zooming in. Let's see. Feldspar says it has a hardness of 6. Kaolinite says it has a hardness of 2. So it's definitely not that because it was not soft at all. Quartz has a hardness of 7. So we know that if it was a 7, if it was quartz, it would have scratched that steel plate, but it didn't. So it can't be quartz because it's not that hard. So the only one that fits the mold is here feldspar with a hardness of 6, density of 2.6. So let's go to the Gizmo, check it, sample B, check feldspar. Let's check it out, and look, we got it first try. So down here under 2 it says identify. So we first sought feldspar, we checked it, it is feldspar. Were we correct on the first try? Yes, we were. All right, let's move quickly on to sample C. All right, so click next, start on appearance. All right, so sample C is pretty lumpy looking. It just doesn't really have a pattern. So we would say that this one is irregular. So we're going to type that, irregular. Oh, how about I spell that right? All right. Color and luster. So it's definitely shiny like metal. So we would say it's metallic, and it's like a yellow color. So let's say yellow / metallic. All right, next is density. So we're going to go down to density. We're going to select this here. Okay, so we're testing, so the mass is 328.1, so 328.1 in the calculator. Now we're going to divide that by the volume of 17. So divided by 17, we get 19.3. So our density, 19.3 grams per milliliter. Oh my gosh, so 19, I didn't even type, 0.3 grams per milliliter. All right, now let's go over and test the hardness. All right, so scratches a fingernail, so it has to be harder than a fingernail at 2.5. However, does not scratch the penny at 3.5. So that means it has to be, I'm going to put over here, between 2.5 and 3.5. Because it's got to be harder than the fingernail, but yet softer than the penny. All right, next let's go to the streak test. And it definitely streaks yellow. So let's go with a yellow color for streak. Last test, does it fizz with acid? Nope, I just see a splash. So we're going to say no. All right, so we got all the properties. Now we're going to go to the chart. So let's first look. Now this density is pretty high. So let's first look for a 19.3. Ooh, right off the bat, I found a 19.3. See if we find any other ones. Nothing even close. So just with density, is it gold? So here's our gold. Let's check the other properties. Does it have an irregular crystal shape? Is its color kind of golden yellow? Does it have a hardness of about 3? Does it streak yellow and not fizz with acid? Looks pretty perfect. Let's give it a try. In the Gizmo, let's try it out. Hit submit. Yes, we are correct. So in this spot, we're going to write gold mineral, and we checked it. It is gold. Were we correct on the first try? Yes, we were. All right, let's move on to sample D. All right, so starting with appearance. All right, so this one, if you kind of see, it's like a slanted square, which in definition is a rhombus. So the crystal structure is actually a rhombus. All right, let's talk about color. So it looks pretty clear. So I would say like a whitish color. As far as it's definitely not metallic, I would say it's more of a glassy luster as well. So we're gonna say whitish slash glassy. Okay, I put too many S's there. All right, density, my favorite one. First, balance scale. So the mass, 67.5. Mass divided by volume, let's find the volume. Divided by 25, 2.7. So the density is 2.7 grams per milliliter. All right, next let's check the hardness. All right, it definitely scratches a fingernail, so it's harder than a fingernail. Oh, no scratch on the penny. So it has to again be between a 2.5 and a 3.5. All right, moving on to the streak test. It streaks white. The color on the plate is a whitish color, so we'll streak white. Let's see the acid reaction. Let's try it again. Ooh, did you see those bubbles? All right, so bubbles tell us that yes, it is reacting with the acid. All right, so let's go to our chart and let's first check density. So 2.7, nothing on the first page. Oop, there's one right here. That's 2.7. And there's one down here. That's 2.7. So there's two that are matching up with density. So let's, honestly, the fizzing in acid is probably going to be even more reliable than anything because very few minerals react with acid. So let's see, this one up here does react with acid. So let's check the other properties. Hardness of a 3, check. We said between 2.5 and 3.5. Streaks white. Is it glassy looking? Does it have a rhombus shape? Yes, it does. So let's check in the Gizmo if it's calcite. And you betcha. So our first thought was it's calcite. Our actual name that it turned out to be was calcite. Were we correct? Yes, we were. Because you're doing it with the teacher, so obviously. All right, let's check E. So mineral sample E. Here we go. Start with appearance. All right, so this one here is really tough to tell. And unless you zoom in, it's kind of difficult to see it. I guess I don't know. didn't really need to do that. So what I would say is this one is um, a sheet-like crystal shape because it actually breaks off in sheets. So that isn't one of the options, unfortunately, and I don't know why, but it's one of the very few that actually break off in sheets. All right, so appearance, we would say it's not metallic, but I would say it's kind of like it's black, but it's kind of shiny like glass. So I would say it's black and glassy. All right, density, our best one to try. Let's get the mass of 36, so 36, divided by volume of 12. So 36 divided by 12 gives us 3. So we have a density of 3 grams per milliliter. All right, next one is hardness. All right, so let's see if we scratch a fingernail. Yes, we do. So it's got to be harder than a 2.5. Does it scratch a penny? No. So it's got to be between a 2.5 and a 3.5, where you could probably write 3. All right, streak. It streaks white, so we're going to write white. And next is our acid test. All right, let's drop some just splashes. So does it react with acid? No, it does not. All right, so let's go to our properties here and start at the beginning. Let's first start with density. So density of 3, I'm looking. All right, there's mica. Let's look on the next page. Density of 3. Oh, that's it. So let's look at mica. Does it break off crystal shape in flat sheets? Is it black and kind of glassy? Yep. Is it have a hardness of about a 3? Yep. Does it streak white? Yep. Does it fizz in acid? No. So looks like a match to me. Let's type it in the gizmo and see if we're right. All right, you got it. So E is mica. All right, we tried it. We first thought it. We tried it on, and we were correct. All right, letter F. So let's go to F. All right, so F. Let's start with appearance. All right, so F is pretty cube-like. So you kind of see it's pretty cube-like, so I would say it's a cube. And it's also not metallic, so I would also say that this is white and kind of glassy. So you would say it's cube, crystal shape, and you would say white slash glassy. All right, next one, we're going to check the density. So we have to get the mass, which is 33. So I'm going to plug in 33 on my calculator and divide it by the volume of 15. So we're going to say divided by 15. Density of 2.2. So that's going to go in here. 2.2 grams per milliliter. All right, next let's check the hardness. All right, so yep, it scratches a fingernail, so it's going to be harder than the fingernail. No, it does not scratch the penny. So again, it's got to have a hardness of 2.5 to 3.5. Try the streak test. It streaks white. All right, and the last test, our acid reaction, just splashes, no reaction. So no, it does not react. All right, so let's start with density. So anything with a 2.3, so let's go down our list, 2.3, not on the first page. Here we have a 2.3 with gypsum. All right, so let's see if we were correct. That's the only 2. Oh, I'm sorry, it was not 2.3, it was 2.2 on my calculator. See where you can easily mess up? It was a 2.2. So let's go back to the first page. Graphite is a 2.2. Next, we have halite, which is a 2.2. So graphite, if we look at graphite, is it dark gray? No. Does it have a hardness of 2? Um, no, it's definitely harder than a 2 because if it was a 2, it would not have scratched the fingernail. So it can't be graphite because it's not hard enough. But the other one is halite. So 2.2, hardness of 3. Does a streak white? Yes, it does. It doesn't react with acid and has a cubic shape. So we're going to first think, let's try halite. All right, let's try halite in the gizmo. And there you go. It is correct. So we have halite for the next one. Correct on first try? Absolutely. All right, so number 3, it says on your own, continue to practice identifying minerals. There are 26 samples in the gizmo, A through Z. Record your findings in your notebook or on a separate sheet of paper. So I actually gave you a separate document, a chart for all this. And so we'll hop to that in the next video where we do the rest of them. But don't forget, this question 4, like here, I can just put see next page because that's what we're going to be looking for because we're actually going to be recording it on the back of the paper. All right, but we can't forget to go back and form a conclusion when we're all done. So that'll be the last thing that we do for this activity. All right, to be continued. Okay, so this is the last section that we're going to work on, and it is going through minerals G through Z. So in this video, I'm going to go kind of fast just so we can get through all of them and nobody falls asleep watching this. But we're going to go through G through Z together. All right, so we're going to start with G on the gizmo into appearance. So G is kind of this reddish color. Let's talk crystal structure. Um, I really am not sure how you would actually know this one too well, but if you could see kind of like the edges along here, it's actually a hexagon. So we're going to do a hexagon for the crystal shape. Color and luster. So it's kind of a reddish color. And I would definitely say kind of a dull non-metallic. So it's reddish and dull slash dull. Maybe even purple, but say it's reddish and dull. All right, the next one, density. We got to get the mass, which is 50 grams divided by the volume of 12.5. We get a 4. So our density is 4 grams per milliliter. All right, next we're going to get the hardness. All right, so first, yes, it scratches a fingernail. Has to be harder than the fingernail. Yes, it scratches a penny. Has to be harder than the penny. Yes, it scratches the glass. Has to be harder than the glass. And yes, it scratches the steel plate. So it has to be harder than the plate. So what I would put here is the hardness is above 6.5 because it could be 7, but it could also be 8 or 9 or 10. So it's got to be one of those. All right, let's check the streak. It actually does not streak because it is harder than the streak plate, so it's not going to break the mineral down into a powder. So there's no streak. All right, does it fizz with acid? So let's go over here, acid reaction. Nope, so we would type no. Now on your paper, I did not make you a column for the mineral name. I just told you to you could either make one yourself or you could just, just write it beside it. So let's take a look at our key. So first off, we're going to look for a density of 4. We have malachite, we also have corundum, and we have garnet. That is 4. Let's check the back. Any other 4s? 4, 4, 4. Nope, no other 4s. So we're going to narrow it down from these 3. Malachite is a dark green color with a hardness of 4. So we definitely rule that one out because ours has to be above 6.5. So that leaves us corundum and garnet. So Density of 4, but a hardness of 9. Could be. Density of 4, hardness of 7. Could be, because anything above 6.5. Both have no streak. Both don't fizz with acid. Both are dark red, with a glassy or dull structure. Garnet has more of a bell shape to its crystal structure, whereas corundum is a hexagon, but you may not have even gotten that one right. So you could just try both, but because I knew that it's a hexagon shape, we're going to go ahead and try corundum and see what happens. All right, here we are. Corundum it is. So the first one is corundum. All right, moving on to H. Let's start with appearance. So H, I would definitely say that H is irregular, doesn't really fit any of the molds, and it's not metallic. It's definitely like a dull. I would say it matches up over here. So over here, we would say irregular and black color, dull luster. Density is my favorite. It's the best one you can use. We have 106, so I'm going to put 106 divided by the volume of 20, and we get 5.3. So we've got a density of 5.3. All right, let's check hardness. Yes, it scratches the fingernail, so it's harder than the fingernail. Definitely scratches the penny, it's harder than the penny. Scratches the glass, it's harder than the glass, but does not scratch the steel plate. So it's got to be between a 5.5 to a 6.5. All right, let's try the streak test. It streaks a brownish color, so I would put brown. All right, does it fizz with acid? No, it does not. All right, let's take a look at our different options here. So first we're going to find density of 5.3. There's one. 5 point, that was the only one. So 5.3, let's see. Hematite, irregular, reddish brown color of the streak. Let's see if I spelled it right, and I am correct. So this one is hematite. All right, moving along to I. All right, starting with appearance. So I. First, the crystal structure would be irregular again. It's kind of like a weird thing going on. Color is greenish. I would say that's kind of a glassy color or glassy luster. So I would say green and glassy. All right, favorite one, we're going to check the density. We have 76.8. So 76.8 divided by the volume of 24. 3.2. So we're going to put the density 3.2, and the unit is grams per milliliter. All right, so let's check the hardness now. Scratches a fingernail, so it's got to be harder than the fingernail. Scratches a penny, it's got to be harder than a penny. But does not scratch the glass. So for this one, it has to be between 3.5 and 5.5. So I would put 3.5 to 5.5. Because it could be a 4, but it could be a 4.5. It could be a 5, or it can't be a 5.5. All right, next we're going to do the streak. It streaks white. And does it fizz in acid? No. All right, so let's take a look at our properties. We're going to first look at density of 3.2. Nothing on the first page. Okay, here's one that's 3.2. There's only one that's 3.2. So let's see if the other properties match up. Is it irregular or pyramid? Yes. Is it glassy? And we said green, but this says it can vary. Hardness of 4, does that fit in with 3.5 to 5.5? Yep. Streaks white and does not react with acid. So let's check and see if fluorite is correct. And yes, it is. Fluorte. There we go. All right, J. Let's move on. J. So we're going to start with the appearance. So J is thought to have a pretty irregular crystal structure. So we're going to put irregular. All right, it is not metallic. It's more of like a, I would say, kind of pearly, to be honest with you. It's like a pearly white because it's not like glassy, like see-through. It's more of like a soft looking or not transparent. So we're going to say it's white slash pearly. All right, density. Mass of 48.3 divided by 21, and that gives us 2.3. All right, so density 2.3. All right, hardness, next one. It does not even scratch a fingernail. So I would say less than 2.5, because that's all we know. It's kind of like a scale. All right, let's do the streak test. It streaks white. So we're going to put white. And let's check the acid test. Just splashes, no reaction. All right, let's look at our properties. Let's first start with density of 2.3. Could be gypsum here. That's a 2.3. And that's the only one that's 2.3. Let's check the other properties. Is it kind of irregular? A pearly dull? Sure. Hardness of 2? Well, we said less than 2.5. Streaks white and does not fizz? Sounds good. Let's try it. All right. And we are correct. This one is gypsum. All right, moving on to K. We'll go to appearance, sample K. All right, so sample K is metallic, so it's kind of hard, and it is a cubic structure. So we would say a cube and metallic. All right, let's get density. Mass of 120, 120 divided by 120 divided by the volume of 16, 7.5. All right, so a density of 7.5. All right, the hardness. Let's go with hardness. Definitely scratches a fingernail, but it actually does not scratch a penny. So its hardness has to be between 2.5 and 3.5. Let's try the streak. Streak's black, blackish, dark brown. Put blackish. All right, does it fizz with the acid? No, it does not. I see no bubbles. All right, let's take a look at our properties. First, we're going to look at the density of 7.5. I don't see anything on this page. Oh, there's one. Anything on the first? So only one. See if the other properties match up. It is cubic. It is gray. Hardness of about 3. Yep. Streaks dark gray or black. Yep. Does not react with acids. Let's try it. Galena. There we are. Galena. All right. Letter L. All right. Let's start with appearance. I would say this is irregular. And I would also say it's pretty dull. So let's do irregular and black color dull. All right, so let's see the density. We've got 88.4 divided by the volume of 17. We get 5.2. That's what my calculator says, 5.2. So density, 5.2. Hardness. Scratches a fingernail, has to be harder than the nail. Scratches a penny, has to be harder than the penny. Scratches this glass plate, has to be harder than the glass plate, but does not scratch the steel plate. So it has to be between a 5.5 and a 6.5. Let's try the streak. All right, streak's a blackish color. All right, let's try the acid test. Nope, does not react with acid. All right, so let's go ahead and compare the properties. Let's start with density, 5.2. Boom, magnetite would match. See if there's any others. Nope, the only one is magnetite, so let's try it in the Gizmo. As long as I spelled that correctly. Magnetite. And we are correct, so magnetite. Ooh. All right, letter M. Let's look at appearance. All right, letter M is kind of a, oh, I guess it's kind of a grayish color. It's kind of glassy gray. So I would say grayish, but kind of glassy. The crystal structure is irregular. It looks pretty irregular. All right, so irregular. It's kind of grayish, almost like got a pinkish. And it is still glassy. You kind of see that it's got some glass to it. All right, so let's go to density. We have 57.2 divided by 22, which equals 2.6. All right, let's look at the crystal or the hardness. Yes, it scratches a fingernail, harder than the nail, harder than the penny, harder than the glass, harder than the steel plate. So it has to be harder than a 6.5. So above 6.5. So it could be 7, could be 8, could be 9, could be 10. All right, does not streak because the streak plate is not going to break it down into a powder, so we're going to say no streak. Let's try the acid reaction. Just splashes, no reaction. All right, so let's take a look at density. So we had a 2.6, and if I remember right, we had a few of them that were 2.6. So it could be feldspar, could be kaolinite, could be quartz. Now, kaolinite we can rule out because if we look at hardness, it was definitely harder than a 2 because kaolinite wouldn't even scratch your fingernail, and it scratched all of them. Quartz, it could be quartz because it's a 7. It also doesn't leave a streak. Let's see what the other one was. 6. 6 would not have scratched the steel plate, so it's not going to be feldspar. So let's give it a try. See if it's quartz. And we're correct. It is quartz. All right, letter N. All right, letter N is gray. I would say this is pretty irregular. Doesn't really look like any of those. So irregular. It's gray and slightly metallic. I see some shimmer to it. They're trying to represent. So we could say metallic. Let's take a look at density. Mass of 44 divided by 20, the volume, 2.2. All right, let's do the scratch test. Hardness test. It doesn't even scratch a fingernail. So it has to be less than 2.5 because it doesn't even scratch that. All right, let's look at streak. Streak's black. All right, let's look at acid reaction. No reaction. All right, let's check our properties. So let's look for anything with a 2.2 to get started. Could be halite. Let's see what else. Could be graphite. So halite was definitely pretty hard or harder. It would have scratched the fingernail because the fingernail's 2.5. We know this has to be less than 2.5. And it's definitely not glassy. So let's look at graphite or pencil lead. Streaks gray, has a dark gray color. Sounds pretty good to me. Graphite, we are correct. So here it is, graphite. All right, letter O. Start with appearance. All right, ooh, this looks pretty. All right, so this is white and glassy. It's not metallic. Um, Kind of an irregular crystal formation. So we're going to say irregular, white / glassy. All right, let's get the density. We have 14 divided by 4. So we have a density of 3.5. All right, let's try the the hardness test. Scratches a fingernail, scratches a penny, scratches glass, and scratches a steel plate. So it has to be harder than all of those. So we would say above a 6.5. All right, let's try the streak. Doesn't streak because it's too hard. All right, fizz with acid. No fizz. All right, so let's look at our chart. Let's first start with density at 3.5. All right, could be topaz, could be diamond, and that's it. So diamond, pyramid or irregular, glassy, no streak, hardness of 10. Topaz, where was that at? Right here. Hexagonal or irregular, glassy, density of 3.5, hardness of 8. So we can go ahead and check topaz and see if we're right. Ooh, we're not. So let's try diamond. And we are. And just kidding, I knew it was diamond anyway, but I just wanted to see you to see what it looked like if you were wrong. All right, letter P. We're going next to appearance. All right, this one is fun. Okay, so this one is metallic. It is irregular, and it's kind of yellowish, goldish. So we're gonna say metal or irregular, metallic, and yellow. Let's try the hardness or density. Sorry. It is 110 grams. We divide that by the volume of 22, and we get 5. All right, let's do the hardness test. Yep, harder than a fingernail, harder than a penny, harder than a glass plate, but not harder than the steel plate. No streak there. So it has to be between 5.5 and 6.5. All right, so let's try the streak. It streaks streaks green. All right, it's got a green streak. All right, let's check the acid reaction. No fizz. All right, let's look at our properties. Let's first start with the density of 5. Here's a density of 5. Let's check the other side. All right, the only one with a density of 5 is pyrite. So let's try it out. And we're correct. All the other properties match up. All right, Q. Start with appearance. All right, so Q is definitely an orange color. I would say this is pretty irregular. So orange, but like a glassy orange. It's kind of like like a glassy. So say irregular. It is orange slash glassy. Let's do the density test. 41.6 divided by 13. 3.2. All right, let's do the hardness test. Scratches a fingernail, scratches a penny. It's got to be harder than those, but does not scratch glass. So it has to be between a 3.5 and a 5.5. All right, let's see what it streaks. Streaks white. And let's see if it reacts with acid. Nope. All right, so we're going to go over here. We're going to see a density of 3.2. I see none on the first page. I see one right here with fluorite. So let's try out. Let's look at fluorite. Is it irregular, glassy, but it could be different colors? Does it streak white and not react with acid? Yes, it does. So let's try that. Okay, and we got it. Now we did already do fluorite, but fluorite comes in different colors, so I think they were just trying to make that point with you here, and they look different. All right, appearance. Let's QR is next. All right, so R is a non-metallic, I would say pretty dull, white dull, and irregular. So it's irregular. It is white and dull. Let's do density. Mass is 64.8 divided by volume of 24 gives us 2.7. All right, we could go to the hardness. It does not even scratch a fingernail, so it has to be less than 2.5. All right, let's try the streak. Streak's white. Let's try and see if it fizzes with acid. Okay, it does not, so we would say nope. All right, let's take a look at the properties. All right, first we're going to look for a 2.7. Nothing. Here's one, calcite. Talc. All right, so we already did calcite, and we know that calcite does react in acid, and we know this one doesn't. So the other one would be talc. It is irregular. It was pretty pearly, kind of a dullish, very soft because we know it had to be less than 2.5. So a 1 is definitely there. Streaked white and did not react. Let's try talc. All right, it is talc. All right, S. So we're going to go back up to appearance. S. Oh, this one is pretty. So it's kind of an irregular crystal structure. I would say it is green and kind of dull. It's like a dull green. So we're going to say irregular. And we're going to say green and dull. All right, density, mass of 80 divided by volume of 20. It's going to have a density of 4. Let's do the hardness. Scratches a fingernail, scratches a penny, but does not scratch glass. So it has to be between a 3.5 and a 5.5. 3.5 to 5.5. Let's check out its streak. Streak's green. All right, let's check out the acid test. All right, no. All right, so let's take a look at all these properties. So let's first start with a density of 4. None on this page. Here we have malachite. Malachite has a density of 4. And so does garnet and corundum. All right, so we know it has to be a hardness of 3.5 to 5.5. So corundum, that rules out corundum and garnet. So we can look up here at malachite. So it has a 4, which we have there. So let's try typing it in, malachite. Okay, there we go. Malachite. Awesome. All right, let's go back up to appearance and do T. So we definitely got some irregularness going here. It is actually gray and actually is metallic. So that would be T. So we would say irregular, gray / metallic. Try the density. Mass of 126 divided by a volume of 12, which gives us 10.5. So that's pretty dense. Hey, buddy. Oh. What? You just do that. All right, so now we're going to do letter T. So if we look at appearance, so letter T, we're definitely going to say it's irregular. And it's kind of a gray metallic. So we're going to say gray metallic irregular shape. Gray metallic. All right, now we're going to check density. So we're going to say it is 126 grams divided by 12. That gives us a 10.5. So that's the density. We're going to do the hardness test. So, oh, it definitely scratches a fingernail, but it does not scratch the penny. So we're going to say it's 2.5 to 3.5. All right, let's do the streak test. It streaks. I would say that's kind of like a gray streak. Yeah, it's looking a little gray. So let's go with a gray streak. All right, and then lastly, let's do the acid test. Okay, does not react with acid. So let's go to our sheet. Let's first check 10.5 for density. So density, ooh, could be silver. Are there any other ones with the 10.5 density? Nope. So let's check the other properties. Irregular, silver gray, check. Hardness of 3, check. Gray streak. All right, let's try silver. And we are correct. Letter T is silver. All right, next we have U. So let's start with appearance. Okay, so this is definitely like irregular, and it's more of a dull yellow. So we're gonna go irregular. It's yellow and dull. Let's do density. 60.9 divided by 29. Mass divided by volume. We have 2.1. All right, let's do the hardness test. Ooh, does not even scratch the fingernail, so it has to be less than 2.5. Let's try the streak. Streak's yellow. And let's see if it fizzes with acid. No, it does not. All right, let's check our sheet. So we want 2.1 density. Nothing on the first page. Only one that has that density is sulfur. See if the other matches up. It does streak yellow, doesn't react. It's yellow and waxy and irregular. So let's try it. And we are correct. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, so this one here, this is sample V. That one, the color, I mean, I guess sample V is a pretty good hexagon shape. So we're gonna say hexagon shape. It is brown and glassy. Let's try its density. All right, mass of 45.5 divided by the volume of 13 would give us 3.5. All right, let's do the hardness test. It scratches a fingernail. It scratches a penny. It scratches the glass. It scratches the steel plate, so it has to be above a 6.5. All right, so streak, it's definitely not going to streak that streak plate because it's too hard. So no streak. And let's see if it reacts with acid. No acid reaction. All right, so let's go here. Let's start with density, 3.5. It could be diamond. And it could be topaz. So topaz, hexagon or irregular, different colors but glassy. Hardness of 8 could be 8. Anything above 6.5 with no streak. Let's try it out. Topaz. Yes, we are correct. All right, W. All right, appearance. Okay, so W is kind of a reddish, brownish color. It's kind of got like specks of different colors, but it's definitely irregular. So we would say like a dull red and brown. So irregular, brown slash reddish, and it's dull. All right, let's try density. 36 divided by the volume of 9 gives us 4. All right, let's try hardness. It scratches a nail, scratches a penny, scratches glass, scratches a steel plate, so it's above 6.5. All right, let's try the streak. It's not going to streak. Nope, nope, because it's too hard. So we're going to write no streak. And we'll do the last test, acid reaction. No reaction. All right, let's take a look at our chart. Let's start with density of 4. So it could be malachite, could be corundum or garnet. And I don't believe there are any 4s on this side. So let's kind of look at the different properties. Okay, so if we take a look, let's look at malachite, hardness of 4. So that can't be it because we know it's got to be above a 6.5. So corundum or garnet. So we know we've already done corundum, so it could be garnet. So let's go ahead and give that one a try. Just we could put both in, but because we've already done corundum, process of elimination, it is garnet. So Garnet. All right, letter X. Let's look at appearance. So first, it's kind of brown and definitely irregular, kind of a dull brown. So we'll say irregular, brown slash dull. Let's get the density. We got the 65 divided by 25 gives us 2.6. All right, let's do the hardness test. Does not even scratch a fingernail, so it has to be below 2.5. All right, so we also, now we can test the streak. So streak's white, so its powder is white. And let's see if it reacts with acid. No bubbles, so that would be a no. All right, so let's go back to our chart and look for a 2.6. Nothing on the first page. We could have feldspar. We also could have kaolinite or quartz. All right, so we know that it has to be below 2.5. So it can't be quartz because quartz is hard at a 7. Can't be feldspar because feldspar is pretty hard at a 6. So kaolinite is the only one that it matches up with. Hardness of 2, check, white, irregular. All right, so Kaoli. Kaoli. Make sure we spell that right. Nite. All right, there we go. We got it. Correct identification. We are good. It's kaolinite. All right, now we're on Y. Let's start with appearance. All right, so first, this is kind of I would say, irregular. kind of a green glassy color. Green glassy. Let's try density. We have 48.6 divided by 18. We have 2.7. All right, let's do hardness. So it scratches a nail, has to be harder than a nail, but does not scratch a penny. So it has to be between 2.5 and 3.5. All right, let's try the streak. Streak's white. Let's try the acid reaction. Ooh, it does react. Yes, it does. We saw bubbles. Let's see that again, just because that's fun. All right, we definitely got a reaction. So let's go ahead to our chart. Look for a density of 2.7. Could be talc, but talc is too soft. 2.7. Could be calcite. Calcite definitely reacts with acid. Hardness of 3. Looks pretty promising. Let's take a look for any other 2.7s, which we don't have. So let's try calcite. All right, and we got it. Calcite is the only one that reacts with acid. All right, let's go with the last but not least. We have letter Z. So Z, I would say, is irregular, and it's not metallic. It's definitely like a dull yellow color. So we would say irregular, and it's yellow/dull. All right, let's go with density. 69.6 divided by the volume of 24. We have 2.9. All right, let's check the hardness. Fingernail, check. So it's harder than a fingernail, harder than a penny, but it's not scratching the glass. So it has to be between a 3.5 and a 5.5. All right, let's try the streak test. Streak's white. And let's see if it reacts with acid. Ooh, it does. All right, so that's the only other one besides calcite that will react with acid. So let's take a look. We could almost just look for any that react with acid. The only other one is dolomite. Let's check 2.9, 2.9 density. Hardness of 4 definitely fits in there. So let's try dolomite. And check it. We are correct. All right, so now we have this entire chart filled out. So what you're going to need to do is 2 things. First, hop back to question 4. Form a conclusion. Which properties were most useful when identifying minerals and why? So make sure you answer that. I would say density for sure, because it is mathematical and is not up for interpretation, or it's not up for debate. It's pretty exact. Also, hardness is a pretty reliable because it's exact. So what you need to do now that you have all of these filled in is the last step would be to go to Google Classroom, and in Google Classroom there was the Gizmo's answers G through Z. So all you have to do is type in, what is this name of sample G? You would type in corundum. Just make sure you spell them right, because it'll mark it wrong if you don't. Okay, so you go through each answer and just put your answers in here, and it'll check it for you. Okay. All right, kids, please let me know if you have questions. I know that's a lot.